What is up? What is up, everybody? Go ahead and say hi in the chat. I will attempt to pronounce your name. How is it going? You know, I should keep track of how many streams I've actually done and start numbering these things. It has to be well over 100. I'm going to wait for some people to get in here, and then we will get started in about 60 seconds. What is up, David? Satinek? I don't know. There's no way I can pronounce that last name. What is up? Harsh, hello. 8 Rodeo. Jade Edits? Okay. J-Beb. All right. That's enough. Men, what is up? JD. Kevin. Lakeland, Florida. As I look outside and I see a foot of snow out here in Ohio. What is up? All right. All right. Let's just go ahead and get started. By the way, the submission details are in the YouTube description on how to do that exactly. All right. Basically here in Discord, this is it. And I'm probably not going to get to all of you. I mean, this is already, like, I'll be honest with you. Don't even bother submitting at this point because we have this many reviews and I won't even be able to get through all of those. And today's a special edition of the UI UX show, so that means I'm not even going to get through as many as I normally do. So what we're going to be doing today is an actual design refactor session. I've done this several times. Typically, I just review a website. However, you know, just verbally, and I'm able to get through kind of quickly. But this time, you know, I like to switch it up. I like to actually design sometimes. So I'm going to pick some out that I think, you know, could definitely benefit from me just working and doing a design refactor of some sort. Not in the entire design, maybe just a specific asset or aspect of it. All right, so before we begin, of course, I do want to mention DesignCourse.com. The last 2 streams, I've enabled a discount called Stream22. It's in the YouTube description to get you 22% off for the year 2022. And this is at DesignCourse.com, which just released here earlier this month, January 4th. Have over 1,000 members already. And essentially, it is the most comprehensive approach to learning UI, UX design. Video, 16 hours worth. UI tests, you can try those out by click and play now. And also mentorship, where I look at your designs based on project challenges, of which there's 12. And I give you actual feedback. In many cases, I iterate on your design to help you identify your weak points. And so definitely check that out. And just for this, like I said, just for this stream alone, you can get 22% off using Stream22. I deactivate it once the stream's over. So definitely check that out. Support the channel and also obviously become better UI UX designer. So let's go ahead and get started here. First one, and I've not taken a look at any of these, by the way. And by the way, just for the future reference, make sure you idle in the Discord server because I do mention before the stream, and assign yourself the stream ping role to get notified. I do announce that, hey, I'm about to go live. Go in here now and start submitting. So that's how these people already got in here, and there's already quite a few. So you just have to idle in the Discord server and make sure you assign the stream ping rule. That way, you know, if you're really far down or you didn't get to submit, next time I'll be able to look at yours, and you just have to be quick. So Water, which is a channel regular, has the first one here. All right, so I know I said I'm gonna do a design refactor on some of these. Some of them I may not, so I'm just gonna take them as they come in. All right, so I already really like the color scheme. I already really like the typography for the most part offhand. I might want to change this situation right here where you have 2 sentences or really paragraphs. Put a space underneath this one or just condense them all, you know, get rid of this little break right here. I like the call to action. It's solid. I like the colors that you're using. This color works really well on this kind of dark to saturated blue. Navigation's all good. Features. Gets a little wonky, I guess you could say. Here, everything has a nice defined container on the left and right. But then we come down here and then we have like this situation. It doesn't really take up the whole layout. So what I would do is I would probably take these 3 elements, push them to the left, and then maybe to have another column, like a 2-column approach of content over here of some sort, be that an illustration or even type-based content. But for the most part, this is pretty good. This is really solid. I'm not going to go ahead and bother with a design refactor on this one because this is pretty solid. We'll do a rating, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. What do you all think this person deserves? Let's go ahead and check out the responsiveness of it. Let's drag that in. Pretty small little hamburger menu. Might want to boost that up just for people on actual phones. But it looks pretty solid here. All right. Submission details are in the YouTube description. So for me, I'm going to give this a rating here of, for what it is, probably like a 7.8. I think that's pretty fair here. All right, solid work. Let's continue on. Next up, a personal website that I've been working on. This is from Hannah. Alrighty. Okay. First up, I would say the contrast of these nav items right here, it almost looks like you've applied opacity to them. I would bring those up, make them 100% white so that you can really increase that contrast. Hello, my name is Hannah. Welcome to my website. So this right here, in terms of ad copy, is very poor. Not to be mean or anything, just I'm trying to make this as constructive as possible. But you have a headline and then a sub-headline, but it doesn't really tell you what the purpose of this website is. It tells you who it's from, but nobody really cares about that. They want to know what is it that what do you do? So Hannah Codes, okay, sort of in the name, but you really need to reflect that in the headline, in the ad copy itself. So take this, get rid of this right here, this headline, and change that to something else that makes more sense, you know. And remember, when it comes to ad copy 101, you want to emphasize benefits over features in your headline. So just research that, refactor this into something else. Coming down here, looking at the rest of this. All right, so again, ad copy, I wouldn't designate this really important element, you know, because it's fairly high up in your design. So therefore, these should be important elements. Nobody cares about your age or where you're from either. You need to really emphasize, you know, what are your core features? How can you benefit, you know, a potential employer or clients? So definitely think about that. Also, you want to containerize your layout to a certain point. This is a 4K monitor, and I've maximized the browser, but all the way extended out to the right and left is your design, and especially with this big old white space in the center. So there's also alignment issues. It says Hannah Codes right here, and this whole nav section is left aligned. You want to take this whole section right here and center it, because this is centered as well. So this is left aligned, but this is centered, but this is left aligned, so it's not a consistent application of your alignment. So you want to definitely rethink that. These cards, you definitely want to rework those. And in fact, I might actually rework them myself. I think this will be our first design refactor that we'll look at. And I'll show you kind of a better way or a better approach to designing these cards right here. So what I'll do is just copy this. I'm going to go to Figma. And we're going to create a new design file. I'm going to paste this in for kind of just a reference. I'll get a desktop artboard here, or frame rather. All right, so we're going to put this in here, and then we will also make this your color, and we will scale this down right around there. And that's pretty good representation of what you had. So let's come over here and let's do a quick, as fast as I possibly can, a quick refactor of this section alone. All right, so let's get this up a little bit higher. All right, so my latest projects. All right, so that's fine. We can use that headline. So you can't see it right now, but you will in a second. All right, so we want to boost this up, make it pretty large. Your size was actually pretty good, so I'm gonna choose something around 30, maybe even larger. Your type for your font, what is that? It looks like it might be something like Poppins, and it is. So Poppins is a solid font. Good choice there. Let's increase this, or change that to Poppins rather, and we'll make it bold, just as you did, but I don't want to underline it. Notice how you underline yours. Is this an actual clickable link? No, it's not. So no sense in underlining that. Make it simple. Remove that underline. You absolutely do not need it. Another thing that you have going on here is look at the lack of white space on the right and the left. That's why I said you want to containerize it up to a certain point. Once the browser gets out to like 1200, maybe 1400 pixels, make that the maxed width of the container of this whole section. That way you have some white space on the left and right. We could simulate this in Figma by adding a layout grid, and we'll change this to columns, and we'll choose 12. We'll give ourselves a margin, maybe like 140 pixels. Hey, I got that like perfectly. Look at that. Damn, I'm good. And then we'll change this to white just so we can kind of see it. And then we can toggle this on off with Control Shift and 4. All right, so now what we want to do is design cards. And the problem I have with these cards is especially is the high contrast 1 pixel white border that's going around each one of them. That creates, that high contrast border creates a lot of clutter in the design. And so we can greatly simplify this by omitting those and changing them up. So let's get a card container right around here. And I also kind of don't like your thumbnails themselves. I think I've done videos on how to properly present projects and thumbnails on portfolios. Just type in portfolio in my channel search and you can find it or so. But encasing them in kind of like these tablets and monitors and stuff, I think is just an old school approach. We can simplify that a bit more. So I think what I'll do is go to a site like Dribbble, and we'll go to web design, and obviously the quality of the web design, I mean, this is going to greatly, impact the quality overall, but I'm going to show you some ideas here. So we're going to save this image as, I'm going to move this over here, and I'm going to save that. Oh, darn. I'll just do this. I'll just screenshot it. We'll just copy this. We'll save that. I'm going to name this as display. And then we're going to go back here, and I'm going to minimize that, and we're going to take this. All right, so what we'll do is duplicate this real quick, move this up. We're going to add that as a fill. All right, and then what we want to do is, if we want to make this an identifiable card with an actual card background, we have a couple options. Like you're using pure black on this background, I believe here. So it's almost, okay, it's not pure black. Okay, so that's fine. We're gonna take this and we're gonna make it low contrast. So something like that. You can just barely kind of see it. Let's get this back over here. And that looks pretty solid. So now, hanacodes.co.uk. All right, so you have the title for each one of these, which is fine. We can go ahead and take this and bring it to the front with the bracket shortcut. And good visual hierarchy, we want to go maybe 18 for this. And then we'll say hanacodes.co.uk. If you want to put an actual website there, that's fine. All right, and then next up we'll put, so you have a website and a source code button. What I would do instead of that is just make this whole thing will be clickable, I would imagine, and then we could choose Iconify for a plugin. Maybe we'll choose link, and we'll choose a link, maybe this one right here, and we'll make it white. All right, and we'll kind of get this into place. You don't want it too large. So this could work. And then let's see, if you really want to have the source code, it's important if we get buttons here and we have type that's next to each other, that's semantically different from each other, we style it differently. So let's just put source code, and we'll make this smaller to like 16 and also not bold. All right, so source code, we could also have another Iconify plugin. So we'll just do I. So that other one was outline, so we'll do an outline here as well. I'm going to make sure these are aligned up properly with each other. And we can give this a button container as well. So we'll take this and we can go darker or we could go lighter. But I want it to be a low contrast button background based on the background it's sitting on. So we'll take this down. We'll put it we'll put it right there maybe. And then we'll move these both over. Now we can group these up real quick. Take this and add an auto layout and center it. That way we can kind of move this around and shape it as we wish. And in order to decrease the typographic visual hierarchy, we can actually take this type and maybe not make it quite as white. And we can also make it regular. So I'm not sure if it makes sense to do it there as well. All right, so now we'll take this, we'll duplicate it. May have to adjust this so we have, if we bring back the grid. Oh, okay, so we can actually make them larger. Control-Shift-4. Now look how much cleaner this looks. All right, of course you would have different thumbnails here compared to this. I think we've greatly simplified the design here based on this before here where we have all of this kind of clutter. There's an unequal amount of white space based on the title here, where there's a tiny amount here, but there's a lot down here. Everything here is pretty solid in terms of white space, alignment, visual hierarchy, contrast, and color. All right, so hopefully that quick redesign factor will help you out in terms of also notice the amount of white space here. There's hardly any here, a lot of lines and stuff. So, all right, let's continue on. All right. So I have a big delay, somebody said. Well, there's nothing I can do about it. All right, so let's just keep that up and let's continue on with the rest. All right, next up. All right, what did this person say, by the way? A website for a mobile app. Phone mockups are just placeholder for now. Okay, blah, blah. It's just a prototype and it isn't really responsive. All right. Okay, so right here, you're just simply stating the title. I would repurpose that into actual ad copy. I wouldn't really just put the name right here. A little bit lacking on the white space. You want to kind of push these elements down, those buttons rather. So as a class of buttons, we'll put margin top 2 M units. Nope, we'll go more than that, like 5 M units, maybe 3.8 M units. There you go. That way you space it out more. Damn it, I hit escape. Margin top 3.8 M units. Okay. So that's a lot better right there in terms of spacing. If I refresh, you'll see the original. There's not much white space behind that element, or on top of that element. Looking at the rest here. All right, so I do have a problem with this contact form. You want to take these labels, move them over to the left, right where these placeholder or these text elements, those text fields start. Having them indented looks a little bit strange. Other than that, you are at least putting labels, which a lot of people omit to do and rely on placeholder values. But yeah, this is a pretty decent. There are large areas of white space like around here, which you might want to rethink about a little bit. And whenever you're doing this 2-column approach where you're reversing the columns, like a checker sort of pattern, I find that it might be better to take, like for instance, this right here, right align that, instead of left aligning it, and vice versa right here. This will be left aligned instead of right aligned. And then you can try to make sure you can structure your CSS so that where this is right aligned, this will be left aligned, so you have a column in the middle, and it kind of just helps the flow of the layout a little bit more, in my opinion. All right, let's continue on. I don't think we're going to bother with ratings today. We're just going to keep on rocking here. Next up, did this person say anything? It's an e-commerce website. All right, rock the swag. All right, not sure if I've seen this before. So really like the type that you're using here, especially in this section. These are all pretty solid, although your heart icon is down a little bit. It looks like it needs to be pushed up. Coming down here. All right, so you have kind of an inconsistent alignment. This is pushed out this far, and then this is pushed out this far, but then these are brought in, and then this one's pushed out far. It feels a little bit disconnected. Now, you want to put a max width on this form container because these are quite long. Like, it should be brought into like here. The width of this right here would be certainly enough. An interesting scroll animations. I'm not going to bother with a design refactor of this one. Pretty solid overall. So let's continue on. Portfolio website. All right, I think we'll go ahead and do a refactor of this one here specifically. So if I change this here to file, I'll be able to grab the artboard, and we'll go to File, New. Yeah, I mean, maybe sometime in the future I'll do the Boja series, but it just wasn't as popular as what I thought it would be. All right, so that's the original, and it took a massive amount of work. Yeah, just wait. This hair, it's going to be growing a lot more. All right, so I actually kind of like this type, but I think maybe it's, we can bring it down a little bit. I like this headline copy, though. Whoa, what happened there? You have some type of interesting mask occurring there. Okay. Putting creativity on the web. Maybe we bring this in. Although then we have nothing to put here. All right. So I don't understand what the purpose of this here is. This looks like a text field. But why would you have somebody enter a text field? I mean, it really does look like a text field that somebody's supposed to type in, but I think you're just trying to mention your contact details, which I think is a little bit strange for this area. So I would rethink this big time. Let's just delete that. All right. And I think, if you're going to have a real simple sort of approach to your hero section, and you have large amounts of white space, it is helpful to have some sort of what I call texture in the background, which can come by way of a photograph, which is kind of like the old school watermark approach, but also illustrations, patterns, maybe tiny blips of, you could even typographic. So if we took the typographic route, we changed this. Maybe we'll just put one word of creativity there, and we'll go up like freaking 400. And then we take down the opacity to like 4%. You can do something like this. That way you're just you're breaking up the entire, the fact that this is all very solid. And you make it interesting, maybe just a little bit more interesting than what it was. I do think we should have some sort of call to action here. So We would also want to mind this. So if I get out the rulers with Shift R and we bring this over, you want to put everything in line with each other. So if I ungroup that, we'll move this over, so on and so forth, so that everything is on that line. So your work is kind of automatically shown here, or the first section that you have outside of your here section is your portfolio. So you can have a scroll indicator icon. You could do something as simple as this, which I've done. I believe I'm doing on DesignCourse homepage, if I recall correctly. You can have an arrow pointing down. You can have it smaller than this, but maybe make it animate up and down. You could have a button even. You could take your button block approach over here, and let's ungroup this. Put this back over here. You know, we could do something like my work. Let's ungroup. Maybe we'll take this out and we can put, how do I want to do this? Let's give this a background or a fill. We'll choose this color. I don't like that white outline with that color, but we'll use Iconify for a second. Make that larger. Change this to the color in the back. And then let's see what we can do here. Let's get rid of the stroke. We'll get rid of this stroke as well. And then perhaps we'll take this and give it a fill. We'll get the background color. All right, so here's kind of like a big blocky button, which kind of follows the aesthetic of your type up here that you're using. What is this type anyhow? Roboto mono. And this one, I feel like this works a little bit better in terms of refactoring the hero section. And if you want to fill out this stuff even more, we could additionally, to really fill up the area, we could take this. Let's lock that, damn it. Lock. All right, we could take this type, we can make it larger, condense it to 3 lines, put this here. I don't know what's happening with this interesting sort of, all right, thingy. Oh no, I lost my down arrow. And then perhaps we could have something here in this area, because that is kind of empty and blank. But now at least we have a button that it looks like a button as opposed to this being a form element that we fill it in. Please have a nice clean haircut. Hell no, I'm a rocker, man. I play guitar and I jam out. All right, so that's all the time I'll spend on this one. Kind of do like it larger here, but again, we would need to put something that makes a little bit more sense. You wouldn't want to put your call to action over there. You could put some sort of illustration possibly, but although I wouldn't add the watermark in the background. You could have like a sub headline as well. We could just have like 3 lines of type of some sort. So we could do lorem ipsum. I don't know what that type would be. I'm not going to try to come up with it for you, but I will auto-generate this and we'll scale this down. And then we will increase the leading and we will increase the white space. And we'll get this lined up in a way that kind of makes sense. So if I hit Shift R, we can bring down some guides. All right, so we could do this. And then you could add possibly a, what do you call, a line separator. Now I think it's getting a little bit too busy here with that watermark in the background. So we could either reduce the opacity or just remove it entirely. So if we remove it entirely, what does that look like? So hide it, bring it back. We could try, you know, maybe 3%. It's just about, you know, having fun, kind of placing things in a way that makes sense. Yeah, anyhow, just a way to just having fun here. But yeah, pretty solid here. Just mind your alignment. Notice how the alignment was off initially and how we kind of aligned everything back up along a single column. And also not confuse people, because this seems like it might be a text field when it's really not. Awesome. Continuing on. Oh, it's been 31 minutes. So that's a good time for me to spam you all with DesignCourse.com. So during this stream, and this stream only, use the coupon code STREAM22 to get 22% off on my new UI UX design service, where you learn through video 16 hours worth. UI tests, which are fun. There's over 40 of those. You can click play now to try some of those, and then for free. And then Mentor, where I review your design and I provide you with actual feedback based on your design submissions, and which can really help you improve. And not just design feedbacks for the most part. If you did a really good job, I don't have to do a revision, but most people, I would say about 80% or so, I'm doing actual design revisions like I'm doing here in this stream, just to give you direct feedback to help you improve the most. So definitely check out DesignCourse.com. Stream22 coupon code will only be available for another 30 minutes or so once we end this stream. All right, next up, here's another one. All right, so portfolio, about me, skills, work contact. We got a toggle button, which works as expected. All right, so this is all solid at the top. Let's build something more exciting. I like that headline copy. I also like the style, nice and bold, good hierarchy. I'm a guy from Sri Lanka who loves to code and experiment with new technologies. All right, I would add probably a little bit more white space. This let's talk with this little, you know, the headline right here, this subtitle. Push that down more, I would say. Outside of that, I would get a picture that's not quite as blurry. I could say this is a little bit blurry, slightly out of focus here. So rethink that possibly. I like this section, 2-column approach, shows what you do, shows your skills. I like the very subtle cards with the very soft shadows. If you're gonna do this, this is a great way to execute drop shadows in a modern fashion. It's all about contrast. Make them very low contrast. You don't want your shadows to be high contrast, because then it takes away from the content itself. Top projects here, pretty decent looking and consistent aesthetic for applying your cards. Contact me, let's chat, name, email address. Now, I would boost up the outlines on your text fields, because I can barely see those. So border, 1 pixel solid. I'm gonna do black just for now, but increased it. You could actually leave that black just to make sure people can actually see it. And obviously change them all. And I think that would be a lot better. Outside of that, this is all pretty solid. I would rate this easily like a mid-7s. Easily, close to 8. All right, who is next? Website with EditorX from Wix. All righty then. Let me move this off screen for a second. All right, so big issues here. First, it's just a big old container just that does nothing. It just kind of wraps around the text. I understand you probably did that because this photograph that you use in the background is extremely, you know, high contrast, bright, etc., etc., etc. But I would prefer you just dim the background, make it a lot darker, and then just have the type on top of it. Otherwise, when you do this kind of containerized approach, it kind of just it makes it feel like a banner almost, and not like a cohesive part of the design. Now this could be cool, but why leave these big edges to the white space there? Stretch that thing out. Don't stretch, the aspect ratio, but make it go from all the way from the right to the left. Same thing with there. You have just a bunch of blocks here, and it doesn't look good. It looks too blocky when you wrap everything in blocks and containers like this. It's a slightly better section, although all this type, think about boldness. Boldness really should only be for elements that should be bold or are of significance. When you make something that's this, like a whole paragraph that in all of it's bold, it doesn't make sense. So make this a lighter weight and only bold things of importance, if that makes sense. A lot of issues with alignment and white space here. Look, tiny little bit of white space, but then you have all this white space up here, and it's all inside of this gray container, which isn't going on to the right and left, so you definitely need to work on your layout skills. You know what you should do? You should go to DesignCourse.com and enter Stream 22. Now, if you're from a country like India or a bunch of others, you can get up to 40% off, and that's parity pricing. Make sure you disable your VPN, by the way. And you can get up to actually more than that 22% discount. I also do offer a discount code if you're a student, student40. Enter that at the checkout, and you get 40% off as well. All right, continuing on. All right. Here's another portfolio site. Oh, wait, what? I just did that one. Oh, yeah. All right, what did this person say? Ratings and suggestions, please. Okay, so fix your phone with a click. I do not like the slightly extended letter spacing that's applied on your subheadline here, or your description. So for instance, if I click this, we're going to see that you have word spacing at 1 pixels. What the hell is word spacing? I thought it was something else. Let's change that to 0. Yeah, the words. Oh, it's word spacing. Okay, letter spacing. That's what I'm talking about. I'm getting confused. 0.5 pixels. Make that 0. That looks just so much better and easier to read rather than giving that slightly extended tracking or letter spacing, as it's called. Your icons here, that's too vibrant of a color. It lacks color contrast based on the white background because there's both bright elements sitting on top of each other. Make those a little bit slightly darker. You can still use that same hue, but drag down the slider in terms of darkness and give it more, make it darker. Now you can get away with doing that here because these are large elements, but these are small icons, not enough color contrast. Pretty solid here for the most part. I don't like this. Again, it just makes it feel blocky. You're in a container already, and then you have another container over here. Open it up, omit this container, and restyle this. So if we take this and we get rid of the background, of course we would then want to make adjustments to this. What you could do is we could grab the background that it's sitting on right here. Damn it, it's not working. There we go. And then we can make it a little bit darker. Or we could just make it the same color. And then we can give it a stroke. Did I say stroke? Border. There we go. And then obviously your headlines need to be changed as well. So we'll grab this. All right, so this is open. It opens it up so much more. Of course, you want to do the same thing with your message contain your text area down here, but this opens it up much more. I've talked about this before. It's kind of like the old style architectural approach to homes being blocky, like everything has its own room. Well, the modern floor plan of most homes these days are open floor plans. So that's how I like to analogize it. Don't put everything in containers and blocks, especially containers within containers. So if I refresh, we'll see the original, and look at that. It just feels way too blocky. All right. Next up is portfolio website. This one. Okay. All right, looking at this, wow, a lot of orangish slash yellowish. I actually like the layout structure in terms of where things are positioned for the most part, but I feel like it's just too bright. It's just too bright of color occurring here. So I would definitely only limit this here. Well, it's a Figma prototype, so I can do a refactor real quick. So let's take this. Let's go into a new file. No, not a new FigJam file. Let's go to a new file. All right. So what we could do is we could do something like this. Let's take this down. All right, and make this white. Ugh. I don't know what is happening here. We have some alignment things occurring, which is making it hard for me to determine where the hell it's a group. So let me ungroup that. Groups within groups. Some designers love putting groups everywhere. All right. Now, of course, we have this issue over here. Okay. So let's move everything here down, with exception to this. Now these high contrast containers here, I don't like those either. So what I would do is maybe change this to slightly off-white. We'll take this, we'll get rid of the stroke. We'll give it a fill of white. All right, so maybe go slightly darker on that fill, like that. All right, so that's better. Let me just delete these. Oops, not that. All right, we'll increase white space here. Bear with me, just about done. And then I would also get rid of these high contrast borders around your other content down here and really rethink that approach. So if we take a look at this compared to the original, it just seems you can use that high, that really bright, vibrant color, but you don't want to use it to this extent where it's consuming the entire layout. It makes it hard to read. So you can leave it on here if you want, but I would really change it up thereafter. So I think that's definitely a good compromise and an improvement. All right. Now, of course, I would like to do a lot of refactoring, but other refactoring, but I don't have the time. All right, need to get to some other submissions. All right, next up, ratings. I think that was the one I just looked at, isn't it? Yes, it is. Okay. Next up. All right. All righty. Here we go. We have some issues. I would say especially with color. I feel like, you know, green and red is really difficult to work with. Also, wow, look at the navigation. These are actual links. It says home, movies, and TV shows. Holy lack of contrast, Batman. If we look at these, you will see that the contrast under accessibility, it's a little hard to see in my video, but if you hover over them on your own, like with the dev tools, you'll see that the contrast ratio is 1.76, which is a big issue. I mean, you want those to be 4.5. So you need to take those suckers, and man, I'll tell you, you gotta boost those up. So color, white, that's what you should be doing for each one of these nav items up there, because that is just not enough. Also, other color issues here, green on a dark green already on a dark bluish background, not enough contrast here. The alignment and placement of this is very odd. It's just kind of thrown down here on the right somewhere. So your alignment is quite an issue as well. Again, lack of color contrast with these buttons, the dark version against this background. Not good alignment. Notice how we have a column established here, then you indented it here, and then you indented it further again here. So you want things to be really aligned up on the same column for the most part. So think about that. I'm not going to do a design refactor for this one. All right, next up. I think that was the next person. All right, so this one's a little bit more clean, I should say. Refresh. See if there's any other. Okay, so there's no, so we have the typewriter effect here, UI, UX developer. I don't know why sometimes it's flickering. I don't know, that's probably not intended behavior, but that's kind of an issue though. Also, the way you've cut yourself out here, it looks jagged and not clean at all. So think about trying to make these perfectly smooth, because it looks just not good being jagged like that. Everything else is pretty clean here. The navigation's good. I'm not sure about using title case for an entire paragraph. It makes it look weird. So definitely rethink that situation. Well, the hire me and portfolio buttons are pretty good. Are you the same person? All right, so I want to do this because this is if this is the same person, the hair change is jarring. It's like, is this one person or no? It says Alexander, so it's supposed to be one person. So I would change that. I like the colors overall as well. So all these sections here are pretty solid. I'm not sure about this section though, because you've gone through areas where you have multiple columns. You're utilizing the available space pretty well, but then we just have everything centered like as if this was a phone view. So I would rethink this approach right here. You could put this in a 2-column layout. Pretty solid overall. Was that the, yes, that was the person I just checked. Maximilian, this is a login page I did, and register. Check the error handling, also you have time. All right. I don't really want to create an account though. Oh, that's definitely an unsplash image, has to be. All right, so this is pretty solid. Are these floating labels? No, they're not. You're using placeholder values, tisk, tisk, tisk. Accessibility, no. You don't want to use placeholder values alone. If you're going to use this approach, make these floating labels so that they always stay visible. People forget what the hell they're entering, and so it becomes an issue for some people. So that's one thing, and also the lack of contrast on these form labels. That's definitely not going to pass the accessibility guidelines as well. So make those darker and floating at least. I like most of what you have here overall, though. Very simplistic. Might be able to stand and make this a little bit larger and make this more like a 50-50 split in terms of your columns. So I'm checking the error handling. I'm trying to hit login and there's no errors. If I hit login, there's still no errors. So I can't check out yeah, you should have error handling like if somebody doesn't enter a field as well. But your design for this looks pretty decent. However, I'm more of a fan of kind of highlighting the which fields themselves. So like if there's an issue with the email, then highlight the email and put a note underneath, directly underneath that field. That way you can see exactly what field has the issue rather than just kind of lumping all the data up top. Pretty solid otherwise in terms of design. This, major issues with contrast. So if I hit open original, maybe we get a bigger version of this, which I don't think we do. Yeah, there's a very big lack of contrast all around. This is a pretty light blue background. So having white text on top of it, probably not a good idea, especially small text like this. You can get away with like "we deliver" because that's a large headline, but for this smaller text, you either want to make this dark or create a container around this whole area, which I'm not that big of a fan of doing. So I would probably just make this dark text right here. Also, I could tell that this text where it says join a vibrant community of independent couriers, that's not going to be enough contrast. Make it darker, 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 darker. All right, next up, developed.com. All right, big issue here. So if I bring these together, these are structured well, but if I bring this all the way out, we have a large amount of white space. So there's no harm in just taking this graphic right here and making it a lot larger to consume more of the layout. You can even actually push it off to the side and cut part of it off and have it really large and consume, this whole section of the layout. So there's a lot of type here. I would reduce the amount of type that you have in these 4 columns, and if they want to learn more about each one of those, have a dedicated page with like a read more or learn more button for each one of those, because there's just so much type here, and some people that just turns them off. They don't want to read. People are lazy and they're just lazy. So think about that. A little bit strange of an alignment here. I could tell some of these are not aligned even. We have a little amount of white space here, but a lot here. They're all uneven, which, believe it or not, people may not be aware of it, but it can just break the quality of a layout. This also shouldn't be in 2 columns. Just because you have so much here, what it should be is this should be, all these elements should be underneath this right here. And center this in the center. That would make a lot more sense. Little strange having these little opaque borders here with his background. I would rethink that for sure. Simplify it much more. All right. Continuing on. Yeah, the colors were an issue with that as well. So I'm not sure what's happening here. It's some sort of dashboard, it looks like. So it's hard for me to kind of gauge at least the UX of it. In terms of the colors, I like the colors overall. Looks pretty decent to me. But yeah, this is a hard one to try to judge because I don't have the context of what's happening here. Looks like little cards, a way to add business goals or something like that. I would restructure this slightly different, this left-hand navigation. Maybe add more white space underneath or on top of each section label, because it's equal amount of white space all around, but I think it should be separated slightly more, each section rather. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pretty solid though in terms of color and layout, it looks like. Black Storm, another channel regular. My face is hurting from talking so much. We're gonna be done here pretty soon though. So that's what I was talking about in terms of creating what's called texture in the background. This is really pushed down in terms of here, let me bring it in. Let's go to File, New. You could probably even stand to make that, you could bring out that background photograph a little bit more. So what's that at 90%? So you could bring it right around here. You can still clearly see your large headline. I think that would work a lot more. Maybe take your button and just make it, let's see. Then you would have to take this stuff. You could do that. Dang it, let me group this up. So I think that looks a little bit, it's a better approach in terms of your colors, so you're not mixing up colors too much. This one is just more consistent in terms of the application of the color and also the alignment. This is up a little bit high. So I think that's, as a real quick refactor, I think this is a little bit better in my opinion. Oh, of course you want to change that color contrast because that's pretty bright. So do something like that. Thank you very much for the super chat. Shaggier. Are you talking about my hair? All right, next up, we're gonna do one more. Here we go. All right, I'm 16 years old, designer and web developer located in Poland. All right, well, I would not put, I've talked about this so many times, I would not put my age. I used to put my age when I was 14 designing websites back in like 1998. And I don't know why, it's something that we're proud of, but I mean, if you're a potential employer or client or whatever, that could be a turnoff. You know, they associate age with lack of experience, which could be true sometimes, but sometimes maybe not if you've been doing it a long time. Don't mention your age. Looking at the rest, I would probably take this, all this stuff right here and just push it down slightly by about like 20 to 50 pixels. I can see this is obviously unfinished, but looks like you have you know, for being 16 years old, you're starting to develop an eye. I would take these icons, make them the same color as the type though over here as well. Don't make them like watermarks. But it looks like this is obviously unfinished, but you have a pretty decent start here. Awesome stuff. All right, everybody, that is going to be it for us all. If you didn't get your design reviewed, definitely check out DesignCourse.com. I mean, definitely idle in the Discord server, and then that way, when I make the announcement next, you can try to be there quick and submit your design. That way, I can get to it quicker in the queue. All right, so definitely check out DesignCourse.com. Here for the next few minutes, we're enabling the Stream 22 discount code to get 22% off if you want to join up. If I go here, I'll show you what the join form looks like. So if we join up, I had to raise the price of Mentor from $29 a month to $49 because I was getting too many orders for me to try to handle. So that did recently bump up. However, you can use the code of Stream22 to get 22% off. Or if you live in a country like India, there's parity pricing, which you can get up to 40% off. So definitely check that out, which is on the final step of the order page. You can definitely learn UI, UX design in my new service here with videos. It's interactive with UI tests and mentorship as well. All right, everybody. When will they be released, the CSS interactive course? Yeah, definitely check out /CSS. We're going to be releasing an interactive CSS course later in the year. That's all I can say. We haven't even begun work on it yet. But we're definitely, you know, it's not going to take as long as it was for launching DesignCourse.com itself because we had to create the whole system from scratch. But now that it's created, we're just going to create a couple new module types to teach code. And that will be interactive and fun as well. So enter an email to be notified when that releases. All right, everybody, very fun stream. I will see you all tomorrow. I will leave that Stream 22 discount code active for the next maybe 10 to 15 minutes. So definitely consider joining up, and I'll see you all soon. Goodbye.